Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Launch and Learn Sunday night match 2025. Tonight, we're going to be going through a typical case study of what to expect as a Salesforce developer. For instance, we're going to be going through how you can create a simple feature within the Salesforce using the flow, as well as using Apex. We're going to be creating exactly the same thing using the flow and the Apex. For the case study we're going to be working on, I've shared that case study with everyone. This is a case study, Apex versus flow. I'm just going to walk you through what it is. You've just been hired. So hypothetically, you've been hired as a developer at Manifest and Company, and you've been assigned to Blackforce because Blackforce is a subsidiary, right? And now we're building, or we want to manage our students. When you want to manage students, you need to have what I call key functionalities. Where are the student records coming from? And how do you update the student records? How do you view? And how do you delete a student record? So tonight, we're going to be looking into what I call the CRUD operation. If you're a developer or if you're aspiring to develop features and applications in Salesforce, key thing you need to know is what I call the CRUD. What is a CRUD operation? The CRUD operation is create, update, view, and delete. Let me explain. When you go to, let's say, the Sales Cloud, Salesforce, you have an account, right? If this is your first time of seeing the Salesforce platform, don't get intimidated. This session is particularly for those that already have a good understanding of the Salesforce platform and they want to see what career paths they can venture into, okay? So this is the sales application, and I got that from the sales on the app launcher. In the accounts object, for instance, you have what they call the new button. What does the new button, what does it do? The new button helps you to create a record. Let's say you want to create a hypothetical record, single login, Inc., right? Obviously, you don't have to fill the other fields for you to create a record. What you've just done from a technical point of view is you've created a new record. So what Salesforce has done is they've made it easier for you as a non-developer to create a new record. Then you have update feature. What's the update feature? The update feature is essentially when you go to that record, which is this, and you decide to say, okay, it's no longer single login Inc., it is single login limited. And you now realize that, oh, there's a phone number, 647-902-5807 or 8. You save. When you save that record, you trigger what I call the updates. Update is when you go to an existing record and you update a record in that existing record. But while doing that, you're viewing this record, you're looking at the details. View is read. Read is you can see the details. Okay, it doesn't have an account number. You can update the account number to 34567. Save. So you've saved the number and you view the number. You've created a record. What if you want to delete the record? You click on delete. That's the life cycle of a record creation, update, view, and delete in Salesforce. As a developer, that's all you'll be doing. I know you'll be wondering, if that's all I'll be doing, so why call myself a developer? You're a developer because it's not going to be that straightforward. Salesforce has given you what I call out-of-the-box solution that makes it easier for you to create updates. But from a business point of view, it's usually very complicated. They will just tell you, we don't want you to delete a record unless the record is active, unless the record is inactive. We don't want you to be able to update a record unless you're a system administrator. That's also very easy. Why? Because you can put what I call a validation rule. You go to the objects and you go to the account objects. Then once you go to the account objects, you go to validation rules. Then you create a new validation. Check if user is a system admin. So if it is true, trigger that error. Insert, I want to go to the user. I want to go to the profile of that user. Okay. I want to go to the profile. If you can't get the profile, you can just get the profile ID. Okay. I want to check if the profile ID is a system admin profile ID. For some of you guys, you might not know how to get the profile ID, right? But I know from query, if I go to my query, I can query select ID from user. Then I can select profile from user. Remember, this is your introduction to IT SQL. Okay. So this is a profile ID, right? If I want to know the name of a profile, why not go to select ID from profile? I have the ID. Select name from profile. I have the name. So this is a system administrator. Profile ID. Let me see if profile ID exists. Profile ID does not exist, but we know that that's the ID, right? This is the ID. Okay. So if you're going into the user, you can now say, okay, this is Bartapa Ebenezer, right? Then profile ID of Bartapa Ebenezer. Okay, so you done profile ID. And you see, so you already have the profile ID. So what you just do is you copy and you put here a profile ID. You copy this, okay? Sorry, you copy this ID, okay? Then you put here and just say, if profile ID matches this, then give that error. That's how you do things declaratively, okay? You're still a developer, but you're using out-of-the-box solution to do things. But in reality, you might not have it this straightforward. It might be through a process that is already in existence and you want to hack into that process. Then that's why you might need to develop an application. But don't let us get into the technical bits straight out of the box. Let's go into the projects and understand what and how to get started with CRUD operation. Remember, I said CRUD operation is really what you would do as a developer. Nothing more, nothing less. However, you'll be writing logic in between that CRUD. Create a record. You cannot create a record unless it's a system admin profile, unless this student is active or the student is inactive and the likes, okay? So let's play around what we're supposed to do. The student record will focus on capturing student name, email, subscription, and program. So you know that these fields are important. Student name, email, subscription, and program. And you know that the subscription can be active or inactive or something like that. But don't worry about that yet. The future roadmap includes enabling system administrators to send emails to inactive students and integrating student record from an external API. That's the future roadmap. As a developer, you need to have that at the back of your mind, that there is a possibility that what you're creating right now will need to be enhanced. So you now need to ask yourself, should I use Flow or use Apex? Sometimes that could be your decision, but in most times, it might not be your decision. It's going to be the decision of the architect. The architect will say, use Flow, use Apex. The only time you should make that decision is if you're not given, you ask. If you're asked and they said either one is fine, then you have that liberty. Okay? But I'll give you an example of when to use Flow and when to use Apex. So now that we have what I call a very simple case study, I want to get student name, email, subscription, and program using the CRUD function. How do I achieve that? First, let's create what I call the objects. In Salesforce, the equivalent of a table in your SQL is called objects. And objects is where you store information. So when you see me querying select profile ID, this user is a table. Okay? It's a table that stores information. So imagine a table. What's a table? Excel sheet. So if you have an Excel sheet, can you not see that this looks like an Excel sheet? You can even copy this and take it to Excel. And it looks like your column and your rows. Can you see? So a table is an Excel sheet. A table is where you store information. So for us to be able to store student information, we create what I call a table. And in Salesforce, a table is an object. Okay? I want to create a student object. And the label is called student. The plural is called students. What does that mean? If you go to the front end and you see account owner, parent account, you see accounts. What does that mean? If you have more than one account, you call it account.